Well, hello, friends. I hope you're having a great day today. Welcome to Monday. Welcome to a brand new week, and welcome to today's edition of Take Five. Now, we have been reading Hebrews 11:32 for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and there are like 6 men that are mentioned there that we've been talking about. The writer said, "What more shall I say? For time would fail me to tell of Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, David, Samuel, and the prophets." These are the last named men in this chapter, and we're down to the final two, and that is Samuel and David. And so that's who we're going to talk about this week. We're probably going to spend today and tomorrow talking about Samuel, and then Wednesday through Friday we'll spend talking about David. Now, the stories of the lives of these two men you'll find in 1 Samuel, in 2 Samuel, and in the first 2 chapters of 1 Kings. I would encourage you to take the time to read that. That's some good reading at night while you're sitting around. Look at what's happening in the lives of these men, and you're going to find so many more faith facts than I'm going to name. I've got 11 that I'm going to share with you this week from the message yesterday. And so I'm going to talk fast, and you're going to have to listen fast. You might even have to hit the rewind bar and back it up just a little bit and let it go again. But whatever the case, let's get this and let's learn what we can. We can't cover their entire life, but we're going to cover what I believe God wants us to understand, what is the most important for us at the present. Now, the one thing that we need to understand about both of these men is that their lives are great examples of how the life of faith should begin in every person while they're still a child. Faith should be introduced to children by God-fearing parents as they teach them the ways of faith. But not only is teaching important, living the example is important as well. Both David and Samuel were very young when they were serving the Lord. Samuel knew nothing but the temple of God and serving there. His mother carried him there from the time he was weaned, and that's where he lived and served. And he served God in the nation of Israel until the day that he died. David was also a young man that was in love with God to a degree beyond what most adults can even understand. As just a young teenager, keeping his father's sheep and learning the lessons of faith that he learned through dealing with Goliath and the other things there as just a young boy, the weight that he had to endure until he finally became king. But all of this became a reality in both of these men's lives because faith was introduced to them at an early age. Every effort possible, I cannot express that enough, every effort possible should be made by parents to instill faith in the life of children. It's not going to happen by osmosis. It's not going to happen by DNA and by heritage and blood and all of that kind of stuff. It has to be instilled in them as we teach them and as we live the example in front of them. Now, I realize that children are going to have to answer for themselves. Everybody does. So they will have to give an account for the decisions that they make. But parents will also have to give an account for how or if they imparted this life of faith to their children. And so that's the similarities here between David and Samuel. They both started at such an early age. Now, let's talk about Samuel for a few minutes. The era of the judges lasted about 450 years, and then the age of the prophets and kings began. And Samuel was the last judge of one epoch, and he was the first prophet of the next. He was chosen by God to bridge the gap in between the two. The last judge of Israel and the first prophet of Israel. He anointed the first king over Israel. He was just an awesome man of God. You can't talk about Samuel without talking about his birth just a little bit and about his parents. His mother Hannah was barren. Her husband Elkanah loved her so much, but she could not have children. And Hannah knew that God was the one that controlled the opening and the closing of a womb, but this didn't give her much encouragement because her rival Peninnah, Elkanah's other wife, was just having child after child after child, just spitting them out, as it were. It seemed like she had no problems at all. Hannah wanted children so bad that during one of their annual pilgrimages to the tabernacle to worship and to offer sacrifices to God, she went alone before the Lord in to pray for a child. And as she prayed with hurt in her soul and tears in her eyes, pouring herself out there before God, the Bible tells us her lips were moving, but no sound was coming out of her mouth. She was just pouring her soul out from the grief and the hurt and the sorrow that she had from not being able to bear a child. Well, Eli the priest saw her there and thought she was drunk. So Eli said to her, "Woman, how long are you going to keep coming to church drunk?" That's basically what he said. You know good and well you shouldn't be doing that. And Hannah said, No. I'm not one of those type of women. I've not drunk wine. I've not drunk anything intoxicated. I'm a woman of a sorrowful spirit. Don't consider me as one of those bad girls. I'm one that's pouring out my soul in grief because I don't have a son, and I've been praying for years for God to give me a son. And Eli had compassion on her, and he agreed with her and said, "Well, woman, go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant you the petition that you've asked of him." She left from there, they went back home, and the Bible said that Elkanah had sexual relations with his wife Hannah, and it came to pass in the process of time that she conceived and bore a son. First thing we need to know today, and we need to understand that sometimes seasons of faith can be frustrating, grievous, and long. This woman had been enduring the frustration and the grief of watching Elkanah's other wife, Peninnah, continue to bear children and rub it in her face. And she had had to deal with that for so many years that she is weary now. And every time she turns to prayer, she pours her heart out in pain and sorrow and in tears. You know, it can be hard sometimes when you're believing God to do a great thing in your life and this thing rocks on for a long period, and especially if you see other people and it looks like He's moving faster for them than He is for you, it can be very grievous. But no one ever said the seasons of faith were short and simple and sweet. My friend, most of the time they're long, they're grievous, and they are painful, but the end result is worth it. In the process of time, the Bible said, she conceived and bore a son. And just like God did it for Hannah, can I tell you, whatever you're believing for, in God's time, in God's way, at the right moment, when everything is as it should be, God will do for you exactly what He said. Just endure this season of faith, my friend. It may be frustrating, it may be long, it may be painful, but the end result will be worth it because you will bring forth what God said you would do. Well, hey, I've got to get out of here. It's been good being with you today. I look forward to being with you tomorrow on Tuesday's edition of Take 5. Until then, God bless you. Have a great day. Remember, friend, trust the Lord. He will never fail you.